This is the story of BTS from nobodies to legends. This is the complete story. 7 young men from South Korea started by performing for just 200 people at a free concert in LA. And within a few years, they were selling out stadiums worldwide, breaking records the Beatles set, and pumping almost $5 billion into their country's economy every single year. This is the story of BTS, the group that tore up the rule book of the global music industry. And now that they've finished their mandatory military service with a reunion planned for 2025, their journey shows us what authenticity can accomplish in an industry usually built on manufactured perfection.
Quick note before we jump in. If you're new to the channel, welcome. We cover stories about the most influential artists and the biggest cultural moments in music. So hit that subscribe button and you won't miss what's coming next. All right, let's get into this. The ragtag beginnings. Understanding what makes BTS different means understanding where they actually came from. And I'm not just talking about South Korea as a country, but this mid-tier entertainment company called Big Hit Entertainment that lacked the resources, the connections, and definitely the reputation of the industry's big three powerhouses. Bang Si-hyuk, professionally known as Hitman Bang, had an idea back in 2010. He'd messed around with hip-hop groups before way back in the late 90s when he worked with this group called One Time, but this time he wanted to create something different, something that actually spoke to young people, something real. What's wild is that Big Hit didn't go hunting for 7 perfectly trained idols with years of experience under their belts. They put together what can only be described as a ragtag group of misfits, and I mean that in the absolute best way possible. Kim Namjoon, who'd eventually become RM, came first. Picture this, he's just 15 years old when he auditions for this company called Big Deal Records, completely bombs it, forgets the lyrics, the whole thing's a disaster. A rapper named Sleepy sees something in him though and recommends him to Big Hit, which leads to Namjoon auditioning directly in front of Bang Si-hyuk himself at 16 and getting signed on the spot. He becomes the leader before there's even a group to lead. Min Yoongi, that's Sugar, was this underground rapper and producer from Daegu who enters a rap competition called Hit It and places second, just second, but Big Hit signs him anyway. When they recruit him, they tell him he'll just focus on rapping and won't need to dance, which turns out to be a total lie, but by the time he figures it out, he's already in too deep. Jung Hoseok, who becomes J-Hope, was a championship-winning dancer from Gwangju with almost zero rap experience, and Big Hit looks at him and decides they can make him a rapper. At one point, J-Hope actually quits, just leaves Big Hit entirely, and it takes RM personally convincing both J-Hope and the company that the group won't be complete without him to get him back. Now this is where it gets really wild. Kim Seok-jin, Jin, had absolutely zero musical experience, like none at all, and he's just walking down the street in Anyang one day minding his own business when an SM Entertainment rep approaches him wanting him to become an entertainer. Jin thinks it's a scam and never follows up. Years later, a Big Hit executive approaches him on the street. Different company, but same situation. And this time, Jin auditions, but here's the thing. He's auditioning to become an actor. Big Hit has completely different plans and convinces him to become a vocalist instead, which means he learns to sing and dance starting from absolute zero. Jungkook was 14 years old when he auditioned for Superstar K and didn't pass, but 7 different companies wanted to sign him anyway, 7 including JYP, which is one of the absolute biggest companies in Korea. His reason for choosing Big Hit, the smallest company with the fewest resources, was simple, and I'm quoting here, RM was cool, so I wanted to sign with them. Kim Tae-hyung, who goes by V, never even plans to audition in the first place. Coming from a poor farming family in Daegu, his dad tells him if he's serious about music, he should learn an instrument. So he spends 3 years practicing saxophone. One day his friends auditioning for Big Hit in Daegu and Taehyung just tags along for moral support, that's it, when someone on the audition team spots him and tells him he should audition too. He ends up being the only one from Daegu to pass that day. And get this, Big Hit keeps him as a secret member and doesn't reveal him until debut. Park Jimin was the top student in the modern dance department at Busan High School of Arts. Studying contemporary dance, he joins last and has the shortest training period of all of them. Stop and think about this for a second. You've got a leader who bombed his first audition, a rapper who was promised he'd never have to dance, a dancer who had to learn how to rap, a guy they literally just found on the street who'd never even sung before, a teenager who picked the company because he thought the leader was cool, a member who only auditioned because his friend was auditioning, and a contemporary dancer with almost zero training time. By any traditional K-pop standard, this should not have worked, but that's exactly what made them different. The struggle and the shift. June 12th, 2013 arrives and BTS holds their debut showcase. The very next day on June 13th, they perform on M Countdown for the first time and release their first single album called Too Cool for School, with the lead single No More Dream. The results came in rough. Sales hit only 24,000 copies in the entire first year. No More Dream peaks at number 124 in Korea. And their second single, We Are Bulletproof Part 2, doesn't even chart. What set them apart from day one, though, was that they had something to say. No More Dream wasn't just another catchy K-pop song, but a direct criticism of South Korea's brutal education system and the pressure placed on young people, which meant that in an industry known for playing it safe, BTS was calling for change from their very first release. Bangtan Sonyeondan, their name, translates to Bulletproof Boy Scouts, with the whole concept being to block out stereotypes and expectations like bullets. Later on, they'd expand this to also mean Beyond the Scene, representing that growth from boys into adults. Just 1 month after debut on July 9th, 2013, they established their official fandom name ARMY, and their first fan meeting in Seoul draws 3,000 people. September 2013 brings their second EP, RUL 8,2, with the single NO that peaks at number 92. Better but still not breakthrough territory. The album debuts at number 4 on the Gaon Weekly chart though, and ends up being the 55th best-selling album in South Korea that year. But more importantly, it wins them New Artist of the Year awards at the Melon Music Awards, Golden Disc Awards, and Soul Music Awards. February 2014 sees their third release, School Love Affair, marking a turning point, topping the Gaon album chart and appearing on international charts for the first time by hitting number 3 on Billboard's World Albums chart. The singles Boy in Love and Just One Day show the group's evolving by tackling themes of young love right alongside their more serious social commentary. July 2014 brings something important when they head to Los Angeles for this reality show called American Hustle Life. And look, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. The show was cringy, really, really cringy. What it gave them, though, was connections with American hip-hop artists, exposure to US audiences, and their first American concert, even if it was free and only had 200 people. Plus, they hit up KCON for the first time. The real turning point comes on April 29th, 2015, when everything changes with The Most Beautiful Moment in Life, Part 1. Ditching the dark, aggressive hip-hop image completely, this album was different. The bulletproof vests and punk aesthetics are gone, replaced by a simple album cover that's just white and pink with the title overlaid, and the sound shifts from that aggressive hip-hop to what they call youthful, colourful styles, as they're being vulnerable, real, down to earth. I Need You, the lead single, arrives sentimental and hopeful in a way they'd never been before. Billboard would later call it one of the greatest K-pop songs of the entire decade, and it peaks at number 5 in Korea while earning them their first music show win on SBS MTV's The Show. Then comes Dope, and for a lot of people this was their introduction to BTS. The music video even starts with RM saying, "Welcome, is this your first time with BTS?" And you know what? For millions of people watching it, absolutely was. November 2015 drops part 2 of The Most Beautiful Moment in Life with the single Run. And this is when they introduce something that becomes absolutely massive, the BTS universe, the BU, creating this connected narrative across music videos, short films, and other media lets fans theorize, dive deep, and feel like they're part of something way bigger. Topping both the weekly Go-On chart and the Billboard World Albums chart, the album makes history as they become the first K-pop act to stay on the Billboard World Albums chart for multiple weeks, not just appear once, but multiple weeks. They also hit the Billboard 200 for the first time at number 171, which might not sound super impressive until you remember this is 2015 and they're singing primarily in Korean. Breakthrough to Phenomenon. May 2nd, 2016 brings The Most Beautiful Moment in Life, Young Forever, a compilation of parts 1 and 2 plus new singles, Epilogue, Young Forever, Fire and Save Me, with both Fire and Save Me topping the Billboard World Digital Songs chart. What really matters though is this album wins them their first Daesang, one of the grand prizes in K-pop, Album of the Year at the 8th Melon Music Awards, making them the youngest recipients ever. This explodes into a huge deal because they're the first non-Big Three artist to win this kind of major award in recent memory. October 2016 happens and Wings arrives. Selling over 500,000 copies in its first week, the album does in 7 days what The Most Beautiful Moment in Life Part 1, which had topped the charts just the previous year, took its entire lifetime to accomplish by selling about 500,000 copies total. Blood, Sweat and Tears, the lead single, becomes a cultural moment by achieving an all-kill, meaning it tops 8 music charts in South Korea at the same time, breaking the YouTube record for highest number of views of a K-pop group video in the first 24 hours. With 6 million views, the album sells 1.5 million copies in South Korea in 2016 alone and peaks at number 26 on the Billboard 200, which stands as the highest any K-pop album had ever charted at that point. Winning Artist of the Year at the Mnet Asian Music Awards might not sound like a huge deal until you realise they're the first non-Big Three artist ever to receive that award. The Big Three, by the way, are the major entertainment companies that had dominated K-pop for decades, SMYG and JYP, while BTS came from Big Hit, a company most people hadn't even heard of when they debuted. Everything absolutely explodes in 2017. February brings Spring Day, and this song is special because at the time this research was compiled, it was still on Korean charts after nearly 4 years, ranking number 53 on Melon, winning Song of the Year at the 9th Melon Music Awards. A Korean reviewer said it embodied nostalgia and sorrow and opened a new chapter in BTS's aesthetics and lyricism, attracting fans across generational boundaries. The Love Yourself series starts with Love Yourself Her in September 2017. Pre-selling 300,000 copies, it becomes their first album to top 2 million in sales. DNA, the single, makes history as the first K-pop boy band song to reach the Billboard Hot 100, climbing to number 67 and becoming the highest charting K-pop song at the time. The music video currently sits at over 1 billion views. Mic Drop gets a remix featuring Designer and Steve Aoki that becomes the first K-pop group song to crack the top 40 on the Billboard Hot 100 and goes platinum in the US. Over in Japan, their album tops the Oricon chart and gets certified double platinum, a first for any foreign artist that year. May 20th, 2017 sees them attend the Billboard Music Awards, where they win Top Social Artist, becoming the first K-pop group to win a Billboard Award, beating Justin Bieber, who'd won the category for 6 straight years. They don't just beat him, but absolutely shatter his streak with over 300 million votes from fans. Global domination. The numbers get absolutely insane here, so pay attention. May 18th, 2018 drops Love Yourself Tear, which becomes the first K-pop album to ever debut at number 1 on the Billboard 200. Not just chart somewhere, but debut at number 1 first week. Fake Love, the lead single, becomes their first top 10 hit on the Hot 100 and makes history as the first non-English song to debut in the top 10. 3 months later, Love Yourself Answer arrives with pre-sales of 1.9 million copies, becomes their second Billboard 200 number 1, and both the album and the single Idol featuring Nicki Minaj go platinum. Embarking on the Love Yourself World Tour, they watch tickets for US shows sell out within minutes as they become the first K-pop artist to sell out US stadium shows. Citi Field in New York sells out in 20 minutes. They perform at Wembley Stadium in London for 60,000 screaming fans over 2 nights, and the entire tour grosses $200 million. Partnering with UNICEF for their Love Myself campaign in 2018, they promote self-esteem and well-being among young people, pledge money toward the campaign, and speak at the United Nations, where RM's speech includes this now famous line, "We have learned to love ourselves, so now I urge you to speak yourself." October 2018 sees the president of South Korea award every member of BTS the 5th class Hwagwon Order of Cultural Merit, one of the highest orders of merit in South Korea, making them the youngest recipients ever. The reason comes down to a 2019 estimate that puts BTS's contribution to the South Korean economy at $4.65 billion annually, equivalent to 0.3% of the country's entire GDP. 7 guys pumping nearly $5 billion per year into their entire country's economy. April 12th, 2019 explodes with Map of the Soul, Persona. Boy With Love, featuring Halsey, debuts at number 8 on the Billboard Hot 100. Goes platinum in the US, wins 21 music show wins. Hits number 1 on iTunes in 67 different countries. And the music video becomes the most viewed YouTube video in the first 24 hours, while also being the fastest to reach 100 million views with a current count of over 1 billion. Selling 3.2 million copies in its first month in Korea alone, the album becomes the best-selling album in South Korean history at the time of release and sweeps every major Korean music show by winning Album of the Year at each one. Performing on Saturday Night Live as the first K-pop act to do so, they're named to Time magazine's 100 Most Influential People list with the label Princes of Pop, and Time literally compares their influence to the Beatles. The Love Yourself, Speak Yourself World Tour sells out the Rose Bowl and Wembley Stadium in 1 hour. They become the first foreign act to perform as a solo act in Saudi Arabia. The tour grosses $200 million, and they end up as the 3rd highest grossing touring musical act of 2019. Their economic impact on a single concert is staggering. An economic analysis shows that BTS's concert in Seoul creates nearly as much economic gain as the entire Pyeongchang Winter Olympics in early 2018, with roughly 100,000 foreigners coming to Korea during that time, including 23,000 foreign fans who come solely to watch the concert. Breaking the final barriers. February 21st, 2020 unleashes Map of the Soul 7. Selling over 4.1 million copies in just the first week, it becomes the first Korean album to be certified quadruple million on the Gaon music chart and debuts at number 1 on music charts all over the world, including the US, Korea, UK, Japan, and much of Europe. Black Swan and On, the singles, dominate charts globally, with On debuting at number 4 on the Billboard Hot 100 to give them their first top 5 hit. Planning a massive Map of the Soul tour starting in April 2020 that, based on their previous tours, would have undoubtedly been their biggest yet. COVID-19 has other plans. Adapting by holding virtual concerts, Bang Bang Con, the live, attracts 756,000 live viewers from 107 countries and territories to become the largest audience for a paid virtual concert at the time. Performing at YouTube's Dear Class of 2020 graduation event and releasing a Japanese album with the original single Stay Gold, they keep pushing forward. August 21st, 2020 arrives and they make the move that finally breaks down the last barrier with Dynamite, their first all-English single. Debuting at number 1 on the Billboard Hot 100, BTS becomes the first all-South Korean act to top the chart, while also topping the newly introduced Global 200 chart and the Global excluding US chart simultaneously. Hitting number 5 on the US mainstream top 40 and the Billboard Pop Singles chart as their first top 10 entry on each, they win 4 awards at the MTV Video Music Awards, including Best Group and Best K-Pop. Winning Top Social Artist at the 2020 Billboard Music Awards for the 4th consecutive year. They receive a Grammy nomination for the first time ever for Best Pop Duo/Group Performance. September sees their remix of Savage Love with Jason Derulo also hit number 1 on the Billboard Hot 100, and when it tops the Global 200 chart, they replace themselves at number 1 to become the first artist ever to do that. November 20th, 2020 drops the album BE and the single Life Goes On. Life Goes On is historic for one simple reason. It becomes the first song primarily in Korean to hit number 1 on the Billboard Hot 100. After years of breaking barriers and proving themselves again and again, they finally do it in their native language, hitting number 1 on the Billboard 200 as their 5th album to do so. It tops worldwide charts in Belgium, Canada, Japan, New Zealand, Norway, Poland, Portugal, and of course, South Korea. The unstoppable force. 2021 was absolutely relentless. March sees the International Federation of the Phonographic Industry, the IFPI, announce BTS as the Global Recording Artist of the Year for 2020, making them the first artist from Korea, and more importantly, the first non-English speaking artist to receive this honor, while beating out 9 other prominent Western artists. May 21st, 2021 drops Butter. The YouTube premiere pulls 3.9 million viewers to break the record set by Dynamite. The music video gets 108.2 million views in the first 24 hours to break the record of 101.1 million set by Dynamite. And on Spotify, it sets a world record with 11 million streams on its first day, spending 10 weeks at number 1 on the Billboard Hot 100 to become the longest running number 1 song of 2021. Butter beats Olivia Rodrigo's Driver's License. May 26th sees McDonald's launch the BTS meal, which means, yes, you heard that right, BTS had a McDonald's meal, showing the cultural impact had reached that level. June 16th brings BTS The Best, their 3rd Japanese compilation album, which instantly hits number 1 on Japan's Oricon chart and sells over 1 million albums to make them the first and only Korean boy group to accomplish this in Japan. July 9th releases Permission to Dance, written by Ed Sheeran, which tops the Billboard Hot 100 as their 5th number 1 single, while the music video gets 72.3 million views in 24 hours. September delivers My Universe, their collaboration with Coldplay, which debuts at number 1 on the Billboard Hot 100 to make history as the first collaboration between 2 groups to debut at number 1. Becoming the fastest group to earn 4 number 1 albums since the Beatles between 1966 and 1968, they returned to live performances in November and December 2021 for the first time since 2019 with the Permission to Dance on Stage tour in Los Angeles at SoFi Stadium, one of the largest stadiums in the United States. Tickets go on pre-sale October 5th for VIP soundcheck and sell out before general sales even start on October 9th, with scalpers reselling tickets for up to $40,000, already having won Artist of the Year at the American Music Awards in 2019 as the first K-pop group and first Asian act ever to do so, along with Best Tour and Favorite Social Artist for the 2nd year in a row. They sweep all the grand prizes at both the 2019 Melon Music Awards and Mnet Asian Music Awards to become the first group ever to do that. Then they do it again in 2020 and again in 2021 for 3 consecutive years of sweeps. The IFPI names them Global Recording Artist of the Year in 2021 for the 2nd consecutive year, making them the only artist ever to win twice and only the 3rd artist to win more than once, alongside Taylor Swift and Drake. Taylor Swift and Drake are English-speaking artists who'd been in the industry for over a decade though, while BTS is a Korean group that had only gone mainstream internationally a few years before. By 2022, they become the most nominated and most awarded group in Billboard Music Award history. The question of military service. Throughout all of this success, there's always been a ticking clock in the background: mandatory military service. All able-bodied men in South Korea have to serve in the military for approximately 18 to 21 months, which for most people happens in their 20s. But for BTS, this creates a unique problem since they're at the peak of their careers while contributing billions to the economy, representing Korea on the world stage, and serving as what political scientists call soft power for their country. Recently passed South Korean legislation, colloquially known as the BTS law, grants them postponement on their mandatory military service, but postponement isn't exemption. Jin, the oldest member, announces he'll be withdrawing his deferral request and confirms his military enlistment, while the remaining members are expected to follow suit and fulfill their mandatory military service obligations. Their 9th anniversary in June 2022 sees BTS announce they'll be focusing on individual projects, which causes immediate panic as Hybe Corporation's stock value drops $1.7 billion, and Bloomberg reports there are no further concert dates scheduled. Potential loss to Hybe over a decade could reach nearly $10 billion, while the South Korean economy could potentially lose nearly $39 billion. The group and their management are quick to clarify, though, that they're not disbanding and they're not going on hiatus, but instead the members will be pursuing solo work with full support from the label while fulfilling their military obligations, with a reunion plan for 2025. What they proved. What does all of this mean, and why does BTS matter? Let me give you some perspective on their fan base. 76% of ARMY are female, while 24% are male. But the age breakdown is even more interesting, with 24% being 10 to 19 years old, 26% in their 20s, 19% in their 30s, and 27% being 40 to 49 years old. This isn't just screaming teenagers, but a multi-generational global movement. Over 40 million subscribers follow their YouTube channel. Official Twitter and Instagram accounts each have over 30 million followers. And ARMY is described as highly organized and passionate, while running coordinated streaming campaigns and successful pushes for radio and television features. What makes the BTS-ARMY relationship different, though, is that it's bi-directional. Scholar John Lai said it's a mutual exchange of positivity that extends beyond the band's music, and feedback from ARMY has actually impacted the group's actions and lyrics, as they eliminated certain Korean words from their songs that sounded like American racial slurs based on fan feedback, and ended a collaboration with a Japanese producer deemed extreme by Korean ARMY members. Praise for BTS has come from everyone. John Cena said, "I love the band for their message. They're giving people who are misunderstood the belief that what they are doing is right," while Halsey noted that for a group that is so larger than life that it can be so easy to dehumanize them, they really do a good job of keeping themselves really just natural and humble. Matthew McConaughey attended a concert with his family and said, "We didn't get out of our seats. We got right down in the pit and broke a sweat dancing." Extending far beyond music, their influence led to becoming global brand ambassadors for Puma, Fila, LG Electronics, Hyundai Motors, Samsung, Formula E, Dior, and Louis Vuitton, and they walked the runway for Louis Vuitton's men's fall-winter 2021 collection. Creating transmedia projects like the BTS universe that included music videos, short films, books, and a mobile game, their webtoon Seven Fates Chaco surpasses 15 million views globally in just 2 days in January 2022, to become the highest viewed title ever launched by Webtoon. Perhaps their most important impact, though, was on the music industry itself. Pursuing less restrictive contracts with their management company to maximise their artistic originality and creativity, they became a beacon for South Korean youth by encouraging individuality and authenticity in a culture that often emphasises conformity. Setting a precedent for more artist control, they pioneered a direct artist-to-fan communication model through social media. Political scientist Joseph Nye's concept of soft power, the ability to get other countries to want what a country wants, has been directly applied to BTS's influence. Appointed special presidential envoy for future generations and culture by President Moon Jae-in, they visited US President Joe Biden at the White House to discuss anti-Asian hate crimes and discrimination and spoke at the United Nations twice. Former South Korean President Moon Jae-in said their melody and lyrics transcend regional borders, language, culture, and institutions. They did all of this while facing barriers that were real and ongoing. Radio play was still an issue, the language barrier was real, and they were constantly separated into world music or K-pop categories at award shows despite outselling and outperforming their American counterparts. Nominated for Grammys multiple times but never winning, widespread criticism emerged that they were being snubbed. They never needed the Grammy to validate them, though, because they validated themselves. Think about what they accomplished. Coming from a small company with no connections, they were a ragtag group that by all traditional metrics shouldn't have succeeded. Half of them had little to no experience when they started, and they sang primarily in Korean in an industry that told them they needed to sing in English to succeed. They became the best-selling artist in South Korean history, the first non-Western, non-English speaking act to be named IFPI's Global Recording Artist of the Year, not once but twice, and they achieved what hadn't been done since the Beatles. Contributing nearly $5 billion annually to their country's economy, they sold out the biggest stadiums in the world, top charts in countries where most people didn't speak their language, and built a fan base of over 40 million people across all continents and age groups. From 2013 to their military service hiatus, they'd only taken 2 extended breaks, 2 in almost 9 years, showing the level of dedication we're talking about. Their message was always consistent with love yourself, be yourself, speak yourself, talking about mental health, societal pressure, loneliness, and the struggles of youth in an industry built on manufactured perfection, RM, and sugar. Openly discussed their struggles with mental health, which influenced their music and inspired honest lyrics that spoke to fans on a personal level. Even in a conservative society, they were praised for their honesty and their willingness to speak out about important issues. Billboard called them the princes of pop. Time magazine put them on the most influential people list. And Billboard executive Silvio Pietrolongo compared their influence to that of the Beatles. And they earned it, every single bit of it. As they complete their military service with that planned 2025 reunion on the horizon, the question isn't whether they'll still be successful, because they've already proven what they can do, already changed the industry forever, and already shown that language barriers, cultural differences, and industry gatekeeping can be overcome with authenticity, hard work, and a genuine connection with your audience. The question is, what will they do next? Because if their history has taught us anything, it's this. BTS doesn't just break records, but breaks the records they set themselves. And they don't just meet expectations, but exceed them in ways no one thought possible. They went from performing for 200 people at a free concert in LA to selling out stadiums of 60,000, from selling 24,000 albums in their first year to selling over 4 million in a week, and from being told they'd never make it in the West to becoming the first Korean act to top the Billboard Hot 100, and then doing it 5 times. 7 young men from South Korea, from a small company with a message of self-love and authenticity, took on the entire global music industry, and they won. That's the story of BTS, from nobodies to legends, and their story isn't over yet. If you enjoyed this deep dive into BTS's journey, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more music documentaries. Drop a comment below and tell me what your favourite BTS era was or what you're most excited about for their return. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.